and targeting strategies. Welcome to the stage, Edgar Keenhan, founder of Grey Ocean, and David Chapman, WYSE Travel Confederation Director General.
Okay, great. Okay. Thank you so much, Glenn, for the introduction, therefore. I do hope you can all hear me. Is that okay? Okay. I already saw you wondering, what's the guy with the pineapple doing? How come? Does any one of you have an idea why I took a pineapple with me for today? No one? What, you do? Please tell me.
The symbol of hospitality.
Ah, she's my lady. The symbol of hospitality. Right, very good. And do you know the reason why?
I do kind of, but not fully.
Kind of. Okay. Briefly, this is the symbol of hospitality. The reason being is back in the golden ages in Holland, 17th century, the Dutch people were traveling all over the world, yeah, for salt, pepper, anything, but also for fruit. And from the Caribbean, they came back with a pineapple. If they came back, because of the risk of on the sea. But when they got back with the pineapple, of course, many of them came from Amsterdam, from the canals. They got home and they put the pineapple in front of their home as a message, I'm back home, I made it, and you're more than welcome to come to me, and I will tell you the story about my trip as a sign of welcome. That's why the pineapple is the key thing about hospitality. And let me tell you, the first pineapple in Europe that was more or less made was in Brooklyn, Breukelen, here in Holland. So we're Dutch a little bit of the pineapple here as well. Therefore, that's so much about the pineapple. Now, let me tell you, I briefly want to touch base with you with the heading. Oh, I'm sorry, I do this in English, but I had been told it could be in Dutch. Is Dutch okay with all of you? No? No? Okay, I'm so sorry. Okay. Then I'm so sorry. The theme I have is in Dutch. Yeah? En that's een beetje bestuurder in de ouderenzorg heeft hotelschool gedaan. Een beetje bestuurder in de heeft hotelschool gedaan. Nou, waarom ouderen? Mijn leven zijn het oudere mensen. Sinds 2000, as of 2000, I'm helping companies for the target market, the elderly people. I help marketing, concept development. That's already 25 years ago for that with Grey Ocean as consulting. I'm writing books about it on the Grey Ocean strategy, on marketing for the elderly consumer. This is the Dutch version. With it is an interview with Ruud van the Valk Hotels, interview with him, saying that actually it's the elderly people who built the success of Van der Valk Hotels. Yeah? He explains what it meant to him. Furthermore, elderly, because do realize you as a hotel, any organization, you have to focus. Go for market segments. The market segment of elderly people is the biggest segment ever. Because we're aging worldwide. So the number of consumers in the elderly is by far more than younger people. Sorry, David, more than younger. I'm so sorry about far more than that. Moreover, if you want to stay in your hotel, what do you need to have? Time and money. Time and money. And who's got time? Elderly people. Who got the money? Elderly people. Because they get income and equity. Yeah? Huge market segment for any industry, but especially hospitality. Secondly, hotel school. Why hotel school? I've been a lecturer at the hotel school for 14 years, and that's why I don't only have a passion for elderly people, but also for hospitality. I have a passion for hospitality, therefore. Now, I do hope that in my 20 minutes that I will raise some questions for you. First, what does hospitality mean to you? What does it mean to you? Yeah. Secondly, how much do I know about my clients, how they experience hospitality, therefore? And finally, to what extent is my hospitality my competitive advantage compared to other ones, therefore? I do hope that those questions will stick to your mind. Think about it. Een beetje bestuurder in de ouderenzorg heeft hotelschool gedaan. Ja? Someone in the board of directors in an elderly environment has been studying at the hotel school. Why? Why hotel school? Do realize in any segment of consumers that you have, they all go for specific things. Elderly people as well. The key thing for them is personal attention. At the end of the day, it's personal attention. Is there anyone of you who have done the hotel school? 1, 2, 3. Okay, there you go. What kind of hotel school? Where? The Hague. No kidding. You might have had lessons from me then. Okay. You did. You did. You still like me or not? Hey, okay, Jimmy, welcome. Jimmy, welcome. But anyway, Jimmy, as you know, at the hotel school, of course, you learn about hospitality, but you do learn about the essence of personal attention. Yeah? That's what you learn at the hotel school. That's why already many people from hotel schools are into the elderly business, because that's the strength that they have there. That's why. Furthermore, on personal attention, that has already been confirmed by scientific research and any day-to-day practice that you will have as well. Because, of course, you will be aware it's important. You do. But it's by far the most important thing to make the difference therefore. Let me give you an example. The Apple Store. Whom of you has ever been to an Apple Store? You did? Okay. Apple Store now. Now, when Steve Jobs decided to get into retail, instead of online, retail stores. Now, what is the value proposition in my store? He said, that's service. So he did a session with his employees to talk about the service. On, do you know good companies where we could learn from? The Ritz-Carlton was mentioned by far the most frequent. So all the employees that will work in the Apple Store were trained at the Ritz-Carlton on personal attention. Do realize when you walk into an Apple Store, there's always someone at the front door. Always. To say welcome when you walk in the store. Yeah? And he's there when you leave the store. Yeah? That's a warm welcome. Yeah? In personal attention. Well, I don't know any other stores where there is someone at the front door to say welcome to you. Therefore, good example. Hospitality. Now, what is hospitality to you? What does it mean to you, hospitality? Kindness. Pardon? Kindness. Sure, kindness. Anything else? B.A.?
Well greeted.
Okay, fine. Welcome, okay, thank you. And for you, hospitality? Again, welcome. You welcome the guest. Yeah? Okay, very good. And for you, maybe, hospitality?
Feeling like coming home.
Feel like coming home. Yeah. That's what my research confirms. Feel like coming home, eh? Huh? Feeling of being home. Good point. Okay. Do you recall that one moment in time you've been somewhere, at a hotel, but it can be a cinema, it can be a restaurant, where the service, the hospital, was outstanding? Do you recall an example?
Even staying here last night when I arrived in the hotel I stayed at.
Okay, last night at the hotel here. What happened?
When I arrived.
When you arrived, what happened?
So the guy showed me around the room, he showed me the facilities, advised me on what's nearby. So basically just took me for everything I needed to know without having to ask.
All right, telling him what he needed to know without asking it. Yeah? Anything you needed. Okay, very good. Okay, yeah. Always just think about yourself now, what you call a critical incident, eh? What's your own experience in hospitality, what you could do therefore. Okay. Now, the reason being, because currently I do my PhD research at Nijrode University. I'm trying to figure out what elderly people see as hospitality. How do they define hospitality? Why do I do this? Of course, the elderly market, the biggest segment ever. But with academic research, you look at the academic debate. What is already known from in the academic world and what not. If you look at hospitality, lots of research has been done on what you as a hotel or an organization need to offer in hospitality. Lots of research. Huh? Well, you often food and beverage and accommodation, it's all well done. That's done. Secondly, a lot of research has been done about the relationship between the host and the guest. Lots of research about behavioral things primarily. Lots. But there's hardly any research about what you and me define as hospitality. Nil. So that's an issue. Because how, as a hotel, can I offer hospitality if I'm not sure if that's aligned with the need that the client has? Yeah. In your example, had been offered especially aligned with what you needed. Yeah. Addressing everything. Very good. So that's hardly known as to what you and me do so. Now, what I did, I started with a panel discussion. Board of directors of companies like London Green Parks, Schiphol Airport, Carlton Hilton Hotel, and it's called hospitality. And what it turned out, all of them say hospitality is key in our competitive advantage. Crucial. Need to do that. Crucial. But if I ask them, do you know how your guests experience hospitality with you? No. We do customer satisfaction. That's different. Yeah. So they don't even know what their clients experience as hospitality. Therefore. Secondly, last year, I did interviewing with older people 60 plus about hospitality. Those were clients from Homestead Home Service, clients of Zorggroep de Lage, that's elderly living, and from Van der Valk, clients of Van der Valk. And discuss with them on hospitality, how do they experience hospitality therefore. I did it with, remember the critical incident? That's a question methodology to do so. But I also asked them, can you mention a color that's really hospitality? Do you know a color that's really hospitality? Yellow, blue, green, any color you think of? No, you don't know that. That's a difficult question, I know. But of course, they do mention a color. And I said, but why then? Why red, why blue? And it turns out, if you ask about color, it's really warmth. Yeah? Warmth is important in hospitality. Animal, yeah? It's about an animal, yeah? Is it what is it? Is it a dog? Is it a monkey? What is it? What is it?
A dog.
A dog.
Yeah, would be.
And why a dog?
Because they're warm and friendly and
Again, very good, eh? Primary warmth, eh? Pardon?
someone you can play with as well.
Someone you can play with, right? Yeah. But also warmth, eh? An animal. Finally, season, yeah? Is spring, autumn, yeah? And then it's primarily, of course, spring in discovery. Hospitality is about discovery. Now, that's a way to find that out. Now, the outcome is, key is being at home. You want to feel at home when you go somewhere. And you want to be seen. You want to have attention. That attention is paid to you, yeah, instead of to colleagues and all that, yeah. So that's very important. And finally, again, personal attention is key number one, yeah, to get that personal attention therefore. Now, the research has been made possible by Home Instead as home service and by EW Facility Services. I guess maybe you're the client of them. They're the biggest cleaner of all the hotels in Holland. Yeah. Now, it's a cleaning company, but they position themselves on hospitality. Not on cleaning, on hospitality to make the difference therefore, okay? Now, and the next part will be to go to quantitative research, yeah, to see if there's an age difference, because it could be that my experience, yeah, I'm 42, 62, sorry, I'm 62, yeah, might be different compared to yours, yeah? And further on the service context, because of course, hospitality in your hotel will be different than the experience in a hospital, yeah, or with a cinema. Yeah? To find that out, that's the next part. But again, conclusion, personal attention is the key to hospitality. So finally, think about yourself. To what extent do my employees give personal attention to my client? Yeah? Is there someone of your employees at the front to say welcome? Yeah? Does an employee use the word welcome when he sees the guest? Yeah? Like, hey, welcome, thank you for being with us. Furthermore, does your employee ask questions to the guest? Like, hey, so nice to see you. Have you been here before, yes or no? Yeah? Get in discussion with the client. And then finally, primarily in restaurants, I guess that might be your own experience when you go to a restaurant. There might be 4, 5, 6 people coming to see you, one for the drink, one for the food, one for the ordering. Yeah? No, no, no. In a restaurant, only one, maybe only two employees. Because by then the guest can set up a relationship with your employee. But when there are 5 people coming over, it's impossible. Yeah? And with 5 people, you look from logistics from your organization. Because put one for the food. No, 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 no. Look from a client perspective. The client wants to see 1 and not 5 there. And then finally, to sum up, please ask yourself again, what does hospitality mean to me? Therefore, how much do I know about my clients in hospitality? Because I found a methodology, a scientific methodology, it's pretty easy to measure what your guest perceives as in your company. Yeah? You can measure that pretty easily, and then you do know what to work on to improve the position of your hotel, therefore. And finally, do I really make a competitive advantage with hospitality, therefore? Okay, so much. Well, the key thing now, the key thing is you know about this. You know all about this. You already knew, eh? You knew. Hello. You already knew, yeah? But now all you know, and I do hope you have a better understanding about hospitality. Thank you so much for your time. Okay, thank you. If there are any questions right now, Glenn, is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take the microphone for
Oh, please, go ahead.
you. Any questions?
Well, sometimes it's a very thin line between hospitality that's nice, that you feel seen, but there's a very thin line between it being annoying. So people asking too many questions or, hi, how are you? And what's your opinion on that? How to find the right direction?
Find the right direction as to, of course, what your guide expects. Very good. Now, you had a very good example in your critical. Apparently, your host knew what you were looking for. Yeah, and that's the trick of being a host is getting to know your client. Yeah, and if you're a real good host, actually you see the guest coming in, and non-verbally, yeah, you already have an idea. So, well, I guess that's that kind of client, or this. Furthermore, when you start the relationship, you learn, because it could be you ask the guest a question, but you get a nil answer. No second question. But it's a learning practice of the host, and that's very difficult. It is very good. Thank you.
Any more questions?
Hi there. You just briefly touched upon the trend of elderly, time, money, biggest demographic, but you also see this trend of digitalization of services. Do you see a conflict in those trends, and have you seen any use cases where they've been pacified in hospitality?
Okay, excuse me, where do you see the contradiction?
The elderly, they've been preconditioned. So in user experience, there are 2 components. One of them is expectations. They've been preconditioned. And the digitalization is a fast-changing...
Oh, digitalization.
Yeah, digitalization.
Oh, good point. Guys, technology. Of course, in any industry, technology is the force driving change. The same goes for our industry. We all know. But you're absolutely right as to what do I do with technology? Of course, to save cost and to improve service. Now, this strategy is what they say, high tech, high touch. High tech, high touch. May I take Citizen M as an example? Citizen M was one of the first hotels to digitalize the check-in. Yeah. The system did not have a front office. They didn't. Okay. So you had to key in yourself. Well, the example I had, one time I was at Citizen Times Square, New York, trying to check in. Well, me and IT don't get together well. They don't. So I was trying to check in and it didn't work. Then an ambassador walks to me. Can I help you? Oh, please do so. Yeah. What they got ambassadors, employees that are available for people with technology. Yeah? High tech, high touch. So you really have to show as to, okay, how do you improve technology in checking in and all that? With therefore. Same goes for a restaurant. The other day I was at a restaurant here in Holland where they got a robot serving the food. Okay? It's a employee that takes the order, but the robot serves the food to you. But the employee was joining the robot. To explain, that saves a lot of time for the employee because he usually then had to walk around to the kitchen and all that. It saves time, and there was still a personal touch. But you're absolutely right. High tech, high touch. That's the study to go. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Okay, David, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for that very interesting talk. I'm going to address the other end of the age spectrum here. But first of all, a little bit about me and about the business that I represent. So my name's David Chapman. I'm the Director General of the WYSE Travel Confederation. WYSE stands for the World Youth Student and Educational Travel Confederation. And we are a global representative body for youth and student travel businesses. We look specifically at the age group of the independent traveller, the experiential traveller, somebody that is travelling independent of families and independent of school groups, but may well be travelling in groups of peers. We're looking at that age group, as I said, between sort of around 18 to middle 30s. And that's what I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about today in terms of what this demographic of people are currently looking for and how potentially as hotel operators you can address some of this. How many hotel operators have we actually got in the audience? Any? 1, 2, okay. My background is hotels, so I trained with a hotel company in the UK, and I spent most of the 80s and the 90s running hotels in the UK. I then moved to a student, international student accommodation and social centre in London, in the noughties, and then moved to WYSE Travel Confederation about 10 years ago to run this association. So I have a real understanding of both everything that we were talking about earlier on in terms of hospitality and in terms of hotels and in terms of what they offer. But what I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about today is how the younger group work. So just quickly, WYSE, we have around 400 members coming from 60 different countries. And we look at business in lots of different directions. So we are both inbound and outbound. We're looking at people that are sending. Some of our members are sending young people abroad to places like the United States, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and others are on the receiving end. So we're looking at both ends of the spectrum. So, what is a youth traveller? Why are they important? I think there's a lot of youngsters in the room here, and the youth demographic is often overlooked, and particularly overlooked in the hotel group. And I'll put my hands up here and now and say, when I was a hotel manager, the youth demographic was not something that I looked at. And I largely had my eyes open when I moved to WYSE and really began to understand why this group was important. So as I said, the age group 15 to 30, 35, it depends which area we're working in. If you're talking to the UNWTO, which is the UN agency for tourism, they look specifically at 18 to 29, so it does vary. We do an awful lot of research into this industry, and over the last 20 years, since 2002 right the way through to this year, we've done a report every 5 years, which is a primary report where we are going to youth and student travellers and asking them their motivations for travel. And getting to understand why youngsters are travelling, where they're going, what they want to do there, how they're funding it, what they're doing in destination, and so on. And from that research and using UNWTO figures, we know that 23% on average of arrivals into a destination is somebody in this 15 to 30 age demographic. If you take that and multiply that out, you're looking at somewhere around $300 billion in annual receipts. And suddenly, that's not a small demographic anymore. That's not a niche. That's a very significant section of the tourism industry as a whole. What's also important to understand is that it's not just a holiday. Of course, it is a holiday. There are a lot of people and a lot of people that we work with are talking about backpackers and are talking about people that are going away for trips. But what we're now seeing is there's a lot of educational element to it and a lot of experiential element to it. And over the last few years, the demographic has changed quite dramatically in that what we're now seeing is people are doing something else as well as taking a holiday or going on a cultural exchange experience. And that might be a volunteering exercise, or it might just be backpacking. The other interesting thing, which is completely overlooked, and I've got a little bit more detail on this further in, is that the youth traveller stays longer than your traditional tourist and actually spends more. And that's quite a difficult figure to understand, but we'll come on to that again in a minute. And there's also a lot of added value to the youth and student traveller, which again is often overlooked, and that is the visiting friends and families. Most people that go, youngsters that go to a destination, and it certainly happened when my son went to the US and my other son went to New Zealand, you go and visit. So there is the extra benefit of having somebody in that area. And the big thing is that the youth traveller is the trendsetter. They will open the new destinations that are not yet open to the traditional mainstream tourism, and they're also more resilient. And again, I'll come on to that in a few minutes. So here I want to just look at some of the motivations. And this is an area that we look at very closely. What are the youth motivations to travel? What are they looking to do when they are in destination? And we've seen some areas are very, very steady and some areas have changed. And we last surveyed in 2017, and we've just rerun the survey in 2023. Understandably, we normally do it every 5 years, so we should have done it in 2022, but there was not an awful lot of data to be had then, as you can imagine. So as you can hear, the experience other cultures and explore other cultures is still a very important element to the youth and student traveller. It's very much what they want to do. But what we've really seen change since 2017 is this requirement to relax and avoid stress. And what we're seeing now is that people are combining the peaceful and wellness elements to travel along with the experiencing of cultures. And as you can see here, there are all of the other areas generally are all culturally orientated, experiencing everyday life, living like a local, and also increasing knowledge. There's always a desire within this demographic to understand and learn more about the destination that they're in. I spoke earlier, a couple of minutes ago, about spend. And here you can see how the total spend, sorry, I'm standing in your way possibly, the total spend has changed quite dramatically since 2002 and 2023. Over the last 21 years, it has more than doubled. And on average, a youth and student traveller spends around €3,600 on a trip. According to UNWTO figures, the average spend for a tourist is about just over €1,000. So it is significantly more. Now, there is, of course, the whole question about they are spending longer in destination. The trips are longer. They're spending less per day, but they are spending significantly more. So again, it's another reason not to overlook this demographic. We had a question a couple of minutes ago about digitalization, the online world, the digital nomad, the fact that Gen Zs are very much the digital generation. They were born with an iPhone in their hand. I didn't get this. So you can see very much here how technology has influenced the entire booking landscape in this demographic. In 2002, the majority of air travel was booked through a travel agent, but it dropped very, very quickly. But what we've seen in the last 5 years, in 2023, is that there's been a very slight uptick on travel agents for both airlines and for accommodation. And this is because of the personal touch. And this is partly, again, one of the elements that were talked about earlier on. People are looking for slightly more complicated packages. They're looking for longer packages, and they're preferring to book some of that through specialist travel agents. And in the youth and student travel space, there are quite a few specialist travel agents like Student Universe and Kilroy. STA, unfortunately, no longer with us, but there are still quite a lot of these specialist agencies around that are there to book accommodation. OTAs, online travel agents, a really big thing in this whole industry. There's a lot of people very uncomfortable about the use of OTAs because of the commissions that are charged. But what we're seeing here is quite an increase across the years in terms of how these are used. But you can see that Booking.com is continuing to take this market share. Back along, Hostel World was probably the main OTA for booking accommodation in the youth and student travel marketplace. But as the bigger OTAs have recognised the value of this marketplace, they've changed their booking platforms to handle bed bookings rather than room bookings to be able to accommodate this. Here you can see the type of accommodation that youth and student travellers are looking to use when they're away. Hotels does come out on top now. 5 years ago, the line between hotels and hostels was very, very thin. The majority of bookings were probably just about going to hotels. Hostels has fallen back a little bit. But you can see there's quite a range here of of accommodation types that people use. And often in a stay, people will use all of those types. It's not that they will stay entirely for their entire time in a hotel. They'll probably use some Airbnb, some hostels, and some other residents. What we also looked at was what do people do in destination and how many activities do they book when they're staying in a certain type of accommodation. And what we can see here is that the hostel and the apartment are very much neck and neck in terms of the numbers of activities that somebody will do whilst they're staying in that type of accommodation. We also look closely at the difference between the two age demographics that we are looking at, the Gen Z and the Gen Y. And here you'll see that the Gen Z is booking slightly more trips than the Gen Y group. And that's probably because they are the newer travellers. They're the slightly younger demographic at the moment. They're probably booking more trips. I'm pretty certain that if we go back through our results, we'll see 5-8 years ago that the demographic was different. We looked also at splurging, because I think one of the questions, one of the things in this marketplace, in the hotel marketplace, is has the young traveller actually got enough money to come and stay in a hotel? Will they come and use our facilities? And the answer is quite likely. We've looked at splurging quite heavily between 2017 and 2023, because what we found is that the youth and student traveller isn't always budget. There is a lot of stuff that is budget. They will look to stay in cheaper accommodation because what they want to do is to save their money for something that is more experiential. At the end of the day, accommodation is a bed, it's a shower, you're in there, you're asleep for most of the time, but what you're looking for is the experiences. And consistently between 17 and 23, you can see that food and drink experiences, and particularly when you're in different destinations, is a very important splurge. And significant amounts of the budget is being put aside to spend on these food and drink experiences. We also looked at happiness. I think there was a question in an earlier section on loneliness, which is something, it's a whole different topic. But I was quite intrigued when we looked at this to look at the happiness by travel type. And generally speaking, people are actually the happiest when they're in a hotel. And interestingly, Airbnb, which is actually the second OTA, in fact, it's the second most popular booking platform for young people to book accommodation, actually provides the lowest level of happiness. But when you look at the scale, you're looking at a happiness scale of 8.7 versus 9.1. So it's not a huge spread. It's just they are slightly happier when they're staying in a hotel. Sustainability with youth travel, and there's a big thing with the say and do gap, and I'm sure a lot of you are seeing this. It's one of the topics that we're discussing quite heavily within our marketplace at the moment. There's an awful lot of people out there that are saying that they're doing something about it, but they're not doing anything about it. And we've found that the youth is looking particularly to adopt a more sustainable lifestyle, and they're looking to support sustainable travel initiatives. So if any of you are working on putting together travel packages, that is certainly the areas that you need to have a look at. I'm just going to go back a second. Sorry, I can't. The other thing I was going to say about sustainability is that sustainability at the moment is still price-driven. And unfortunately, for a lot of people who want to continue to travel, sustainability is not an option if you don't have the budget. It's often cheaper to fly than it is to take a different method, which is an unfortunate situation which I think we'll have a lot of conversation about over the next year or so. Cost of living. We're all very conscious of the fact there's been a significant cost of living increase over the last year or two. And what we've seen is that this has not particularly stopped the youth and student traveller from travelling. What it's done is it's meant that they've started to look for cheaper destinations. They've potentially reduced the length of their trip slightly. They've either looked at combining a working holiday with a holiday, so that they're partly funding the trip through work, and they're looking at potentially delaying until they've got a little bit more time. The whole digital nomad thing is something that is really quite interesting, and that's probably another topic for another day, but it is there and it's very significant. We first identified this in 2017, and we've seen nothing but it growing since then, and I think COVID has been probably very responsible for that. Interestingly, within the people that we surveyed, and that was about 10,000 people, most of them said that around 55% of hotel users felt that there was no significant impact with the cost of living, whereas the hostel users, it was a little bit less. I mentioned earlier on about the youth being trailblazers, and they are very much the first to get moving when there's a problem. And I think when COVID started to lift, the youth were one of the first demographics to really start to move. And as you can see here, throughout 2017, with a slight drop-off in 2023, the young people have basically said COVID has had little impact upon what we're prepared to do in terms of travelling. We always said that when the tough gets going, the youth get travelling. One of the last slides I've got here, and the bottom of it's missing, I'm sorry about this. This was 10 cities. We asked people which are the top 10 cities that you've been to, that you'd like to return to because you found it gezellig, you found it a great place to stay. And as you can see, Tokyo, Osaka, Melbourne, Cape Town, these are the towns, the cities that we're very keen for people to return to. Amsterdam's there at 7th, which I'm very pleased to see. So that's the end of what I've got to say. I just wanted to point out, and this was a little bit more if there were more hoteliers in here. We are supported as an association by some major hotel groups, Hosteling International in the USA, Meininger Hotels, Joe & Joe, which are part of Accor, and a number of others. And without their support on producing all of this research, we wouldn't be able to do it. Anyway, that's my bit on youth and student travel. I hope you found it interesting, and if anybody's got any questions, I'd be very happy to try and answer them.
I have a question. What was number 10 on the list?
I can't remember.
No worries.
But what I can tell you is that it wasn't in the USA. The first US city was New York, and that was about 13th. And I did this presentation last week at ITB in Berlin, and I had the CEO of HR USA on the panel. He was not very impressed. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you both. I think that's it, isn't it?
No pineapples.
Interesting, David.
Thank you.